when it comes to the impact that all of this connectivity has in their lives. And I think it's really worthwhile to take a little bit of time to discuss that. So I'm going to ask Sarita, our presenter, to come up now. This is Sarita Bhatt, and she is with your RSCG. She originally joined the company as Director of Digital Planning, and recently took on, is this a new role at Euro or your new role?
It's a new role at Euro.
Yeah, she's managing director, strategy, social platforms. So I think she kind of knows what she's doing. But she's been in the business for about 12 years, and she's going to walk you through this research. So thank you, Sarita.
Sure. Hi. So we have a series of reports called the Prosumer Report that come out every few months or so. The most recent one, spring 2012, called This Digital Life, which ironically is a little bit about not being so digital. The report is not be very well aware of on a very sort of overt level. And it's infinite and it's immortal. What it does do is it drives a sense of community, as religions do. It's the new daily church, Sunday church. It's the new synagogue. It's where people are going to share interests, and it's all based on senses of passion points and affinities. And so the internet is, in a sense, a sort of very large religion in the world today. One of the more interesting things I personally find is that what it does is, like religion, like faith, embodies a sense of wanting to do good, wanting to actually make the world a better place. With the majority of our respondents, 78% of our prosumers want to and intend to use social media to do good and to actually be actively pursuing a better life. And I think that that's interesting, as it sort of directly contradicts 6 and 10 feeling like we're not going in the right direction. So this sense of purpose and the sense of social good starts to emerge as something critically important, especially for brands, as we try to figure out what that relationship is between consumers and brands. And if you don't do it right, there's a lot of retribution and punishment in the power of social media, and a lot of people will find out very quickly that you haven't done it right. So what are the key takeaways for marketers today? The first, as people are trying to reestablish this sense of public and private in the virtual world, they need help. They need a lot of help. And so privacy management starts to emerge as a place that that companies are starting to go to really help people manage their time and understand what are these apps, what are these permissions. You know, I run a social media group at Euro, and I hadn't looked at Facebook privacy settings in a really long time. And of course I know, because I'm in the industry, that there's all kinds of problems with these settings, and they're very complicated, and people are complaining. But it wasn't until about 3 months ago that my mom joined Facebook. And then I was like, I need to figure out what these privacy settings are all about. Until then, I was just like, I don't care. I'm not doing any. I'm not a millennial. I'm not posting up ridiculous photos. You know, the CEO of our company is my Facebook friend. It's cool. But then my mom joined, and I was like, now I have to do something about it. And I was like in the Facebook privacy settings for like a good several hours on a Saturday, and I was like, I had to actually email someone who works on my team and was like, can you help me with a millennial, and ask her to actually help me on Monday morning, set up a meeting just to help me figure out these Facebook privacy settings. So people need help, consumers need help. We need help in actually managing this access that everyone has and how we sort of balance that public and that private. The other thing that emerges from that for marketers to consider is really generating community around interests and passion points, like a Pinterest or whatever the latest platform of the day is going to be, but really going beyond just what that product is about, and going that step further to look at, well, what do people who want to consume this product actually care about? The second thing is this advice, which I obviously need, and how to actually use all of this technology, especially from a privacy perspective. People are looking for that help, for those tips, and brands have this really great role of being leaders in this space, of really helping consumers, supporting consumers, facilitating sort of engagement with digital and social, but more than that, engagement with their brands. Software applications are growing. How do you stay focused? How do you sort of, eliminate distractions? How do you can turn your computer off? Interestingly enough, the Swedish telecom provider created these internet-free zones. Their business is based on people being online. And what they did was actually take a sort of different take on it and say, we're going to help you go offline for a little bit here. And that's something that really taps into where consumers are going, especially as it relates to what we found in our study. The third implication for marketers, and this also, interestingly, relates directly to a study we did in 2010 on the new consumer, and this idea of hyper-consumerism and overconsumption and hyper-consumption. And people are really starting to become very wary of that artificial and that disposable everything, and that everyone's buying everything, you're tapping and you're clicking and you're just buying tons of products. There's actually been a backlash, and we have sort of data that supports that people kind of want to return to a little bit more of a simpler life. They don't want to have so many things and so many objects, and they really want to start sort of having things that are more valuable to them. And that's a very big deal for brands when we're trying to sell products, especially, and services. But when you're trying to sell products and people want less product, you have to start selling something different in order for them to actually want to connect with your product versus every other one that's out there. It's leading to a new way forward, and this is sort of a rise that I think we see culturally in this country and globally, where people want to be more green. They want to do more social good. They want to sort of focus on more sustainable actions. And they really want to live a more better, simpler life. Again, I think that goes back to that idea of because they think that we're not going in that direction, according to our respondents. And so in order to sort of counter that, they want to actually more actively be better people for a better world. So what can brands do? Well, they can add sort of deeper satisfaction, deeper value. And maybe everyone's not building, a hybrid electric green car for tomorrow as our products and services, but we can help our consumers make smarter choices. We can help them make choices that make them feel good about what they're doing and what they're purchasing so that they can still feel like they're living a more simpler life, yet they're doing something that's actually making the world a little bit of a better place. But these smarter consumers today are also smarter social funders, and social good isn't what it was 5 years ago. Just because you buy a pair of Tom shoes and Tom gives a pair of free shoes to someone in another country, there's actually been an extraordinary backlash to that, because not every village in every developing country needs a pair of shoes. There's actually other things that those communities need. And so these smarter consumers are actually looking to make these choices that are much more informed because they are hyper-connected. They can find out about Coney. They can find out that Greg Mortensen, told a couple lies along the way with the schools he was building in Afghanistan. They can find out that maybe the quality of the Tom shoes that they're actually giving away are not the best quality, and maybe that there's other things that they can be doing. And so understanding and defining what social good is a role that brands can play today and take a leadership position in creating actual creative business social programs that have a sense of purpose, because that's what consumers want. They want brand partners that help them feel like they're actually doing something better and that they have a sense of purpose. And companies like Warby Parker are doing that, where they're actually getting at actual social issues and they're actually trying to solve a problem, and they're becoming this sort of consumer brand partner, because in this hyper-connected world, brands have the role of partnership. It's no longer just a sort of master-slave hierarchy. The fourth sort of takeaway from our report was this idea of that hybrid existence and that sense of wanting to really blend the old and the new. And there's interesting ways in which we see this really coming to life. You can have this super powerful iPad or iPhone, and now people are covering it with a natural wood case. You can have a very cool Nike Fuel band where you're actually tracking everything, but you're doing that within a sense of community and creating these sort of social spaces where you're sharing how well you're doing and how far you're running. You can have that access of finding out through Foursquare or Twitter where the local coolest the taco truck or food truck is, but you're going to the one that's actually providing organic, locally produced food. The fifth and final takeaway from this is this idea of stability, because it's a pretty chaotic world. As consumers, as we found in our report, are trying to figure out how this integrated technology in their daily life, what is that role? It's almost not a role. It's almost an invisible role today. But that's a new idea and a new way of thinking. So they're looking for a way to actually find some degree of stability within that. And brands have this important role that they can play of actually seeking assurance and helping consumers feel comfortable in this space. We can help them feel like we're trusted brands, that we're not just the big bad guys, that we actually are your partner and that you can trust us. And we can provide you that guidance because we know that you want to do good and we know that you want to live a more simple life, and we're going to help you do that. And that's the role that we as a brand can play that goes beyond just product benefit and goes beyond just what we know as a sort of RTB and goes to a sort of higher level and a higher order of thinking. It provides structure. Especially if you look at something like a mint.com in the financial world, that's a very chaotic, information overloaded place. So providing that structure and helping consumers understand the information that they're over consuming in a tangible, very understandable way is a very strong role that brands can play tomorrow. And finally, I think from a leadership perspective, we as brand marketers have this responsibility and this giant opportunity to really drive the thinking and the sort of the future of our culture in this space that goes beyond just being digital and goes beyond just technology and being social and really becomes about leading consumers into tomorrow's world, which is already connected. That's sort of not the new user, but really playing this role of partnership to our consumers. You can actually download the entire report online. And I know I went through that really quickly in the interest of time, but if you have any questions, go for it.
You have questions? One thing that's come up a couple of times during the last couple of days is yeah, this whole corporations doing good thing. You were talking about Tom's Shoes and all that kind of thing, and there are sort of like good ways to do this and bad ways to do this, and I kind of wondered what your sense of like, what are the what are the things to look out for if you're a marketer trying to support a cause? Like, how do you do that in a way that I don't know, fits your brand, is more than just like window dressing and all that? Because it seems like that's what consumers are looking for, maybe to a greater degree than they did a few years ago.
Yeah, definitely. I think a few years ago, if you said, if I buy this, I give these shoes to someone, somewhere else for free, you felt good about that. And I think today, consumers want to have a deeper sense of sort of commitment and connection to what it is that they're actually sort of trying to make better. And in terms of the role of brands and corporate social responsibility, CSR has historically been very charitable, and that's a great thing. That money is needed, and so you're just charitably giving. But I think, especially in a connected world, it goes beyond just charity and sort of is evolving into this space of actual sustainability, creating businesses and creating sustainable businesses in local markets that actually enable those people to become eventually self-sufficient. And how you sort of match that to what your brand is about, I think goes back to any brand essence, and sort of having a planning background and being a planner. Every brand has an essence, whether it's Coke having happiness or another brand. I think it's really getting at what is the essence of your brand and how does that translate into actually making a local community a sustainable, actual thriving culture. And I think that these are the questions that we need to ask as brand marketers as we think about how we evolve our approach to a globally networked society.
No, thanks. There was a book, I don't know why the name's escaping me, by a guy named Simon Mainwaring that really goes into, the whole sort of link between brands and I won't. Charity's the wrong word to use, but it's a pretty fascinating book. So go Google it; you'll find the book. Okay. Well, thank you, Sarita.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, it's time for the last panel. You have to give them a big round of applause for sticking to the very